Hi, I'm Steve Pond from TheWrap. We're here at the Toronto Film Festival, and I'm pleased to welcome the team from all of you, director William Bridges, actors Imogen Poots and Brett Goldstein.
Hello.
Welcome. Congratulations on the film. Now, Will and Brett, you wrote this together, right?
We did, yeah. Yeah.
Um, so this is a story set in the somewhat near future in which you can actually determine your soulmate. What led you to this story?
Well, Brett and I have known each other for a long time, 15 years, maybe more. And we met working on another film, writing on a film, which was also a love story or romantic comedy. And so when you're doing that, you're just naturally talking about relationships because you're trying to get to the truth of a story. And I was about to get married, or I was married. I
You were
can't
about
remember.
to. You were
God, I'm
about
going to
to.
get in trouble for that. But
Yeah, you
and
weren't
Brett was
married yet.
single, and he was asking me if she was the one. Is she your soulmate? And I said, I don't know. I really don't.
I was like,
I
"We're
don't know
married
yet.
then."
I'm not sure yet. And I think the idea just came out of that. So literally, it was like, well, what if you could? No. What if there was a test you could take? And within half an hour, we've kind of come up with an idea of two people that are friends walking. One's lent the other the money to take the test, and that became a short film that we wrote. And I think we shot it like 2 weeks later in 2 days. And so like after like 2.5 weeks of having this idea, it unpacked itself into being a short film that we made. And I guess at that point we were done to a degree, but we kept talking about it as we worked on other stuff together. We always came back to this conversation about these two people and what they're doing in their lives. What would happen 2 years later, 4 years later, except like that. And then I guess like after about 15 years of talking about it, we were like, well, we should turn this into a film. We should write this
Yeah.
down.
We're obsessed with this.
Yes, to stop us talking about it.
Yeah.
And so we wrote it down, and in that time, Brad got famous, so we got to make the film, and here we are.
Also, I think that it's interesting to help you with your wife when she sees this. At the beginning of this 15-year thing, Will was like, I don't know if she's my soulmate, but I think now, 15 years later, having had children and life, you feel she might be, right?
She might be, yeah. That's what we'll give her. We'll give her. She might be.
Pretty close. Near enough.
So have your feelings about soulmates changed in the 15 years?
Yeah, I think they have. I think they're not fixed. I think they change all the time. I definitely think that look, I find it interesting having watched Will and his marriage and family. Like I do see, the more I hear of their story, I'm like, I think you're soulmates. Like as in, Will is sometimes very funny and cynical, but really their story, like objectively, is incredibly romantic and kind of like magical. He just doesn't like to say it like that. But like I go, when you see stuff like that, and when you meet people and you feel like you've known them forever, I think these things exist in some form.
I think time helps. I think like looking back, like to ask somebody to look 15 years in the future and go, is somebody going to be your soulmate? Is a difficult question to answer. Much easier 15 years later to look back and go, yeah, I think that is the case. So I think that's the difference, is time.
Yeah. Imogen, how did you get involved with these guys, and what made you want to be
These
part
guys.
These
I was sent
guys.
their script and I absolutely loved it. And I read it in one sitting on an airplane of all places. And
Where
I
were you
didn't get up to
going?
pee once. And I read it and I absolutely loved it. And it made me laugh and it made me feel lots of things which I normally would repress. And it was very wonderful. And then I met with Brett over Zoom and we got along so well and had a lovely, lovely conversation. And I was really excited about the idea of doing it. And then we all did another Zoom, didn't we?
Yeah.
We did another kind of, and then we were Zoomed out and then we met in person. And then that was a whole other chapter and we made the film and it was great.
Yeah, you know what? We can say this. I think we met on Zoom, me and Imogen, and within 5 minutes I was like, oh, I feel like I've known her forever, which the story is about two friends who've known each other forever. I was like, and I called Will and I said, it's Imogen Poots, 100%, no doubt. And then Imogen was shooting The Outer Range, so she was in Santa Fe, and we kind of needed like to prove the whole film is based on our chemistry or not. and there was talk of me flying there or her flying, like us meeting so that we could prove this would work on camera, and we couldn't because of our schedules. So we just did a Zoom. So when Will's on the Zoom, so the video is 3 boxes, but even in that very unnatural environment,
Where do you look? Yeah.
it was clear, like,
Fantastic.
we were lovely together.
And when you got together in person, was it immediately as good as it is in 3 boxes?
It was we had dinner, didn't we?
Yeah, we had
We went to
dinner.
a restaurant that you hated, which was a really nice restaurant. It was one of the
Yeah,
chicest
absolutely
restaurants
hated
in
it.
town, and he was
Disgusting.
absolutely mortified. And he was like, "What is this?" And we went there. We had a lovely meal, and then we hung out. We got very codependent for about 6 weeks and made the film.
Right. So do you work together at figuring out the shared history of these two people?
Well, we knew, like, it's different, maybe different for me, as in we've had this thing in our head for 15 years, so I knew all that, like, it wasn't a discovery. We already felt very lived in. And you tell me,
It was something. I remember the first scene that we shot. It was a scene in the car, and Simon had just picked Laura up, and I remember that was right at the start of the journey. And I remember like looking at Brett as Simon, and that idea of the safety of someone that's been in your life for that long. Because this was a time jump. This scene was sort of mid story, and the idea of looking at a person who's always been in your life, the safety of that and the familiarity of that, and kind of growing together, and just how your friend becomes your family in that way. It was such a sort of intense dynamic and intense connection to another person. I think all of that sort of, we just became those characters for each other as well. I think you can't avoid this sort of fusion of life and the work, where if you really trust the person that you're working with, that just bleeds into the work itself and the scene. And so I suppose that's where the characters kind of came to be, was just sort of through what we as people felt as friends towards each other.
I remember that scene the scene is in a car, and it was the first day, and it was all cameras like rigged up behind us, but there was no room for anyone else. So we had all day where it was just the two of us in the car, and Will in a van behind us on a walkie-talkie that often broke, sometimes going, "I can't see anything." It's a disaster.
Oh, shit.
So did you feel like, they're getting it?
On that day, well, I wasn't in the car with them, like Brett said. So what I was seeing a lot of was cars stopping and and angry and panic, like because we were on a live road, and we were following the car Brett was driving, so it wasn't on a low loader or anything. So we were literally at the will of all traffic, and that was day one.
It was the most traffic.
That was, I think we really pushed it on day one. We got it out the way, and it was kind of a bit more downhill after that. But then when you see the rushes and you're watching the rushes, you see it's all there, so you calm down immediately. I just wasn't there as it was happening. I was too busy panicking about getting stopped by police.
Yeah, it was that.
Okay. Well, I think we need to wrap up, but
No.
thanks
Oh,
thanks
yeah,
very
thank you so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Nice
very
to
much.
see you, man.
Thanks.
Thank you very, very
Good to see
much.
you.